Is this the fifth major? We'll talk about it. I don't think so, but let me know what you guys are thinking about the players in the comments. Welcome back to the 19th hole. Mike joining me yet again. Jake here as always. Mike, how are we doing this week? How was your time watching the Arnold Palmer Invitational?
Oh, I got takes. I can't wait to get to it. But this is the real start of the golf season, and so you can't not be pumped up. It's just a golf.
Yeah, this is, we'll talk about it now. People have been talking this up as the fifth major. Brandel Chambly, most notably, perhaps, kind of brought that conversation into the spotlight. I don't think so. Nothing about this event gives me a major feel. TPC Sawgrass, it's a great course. It doesn't feel like a major venue. Like, I feel like if this event were to be a major, it would have to be a switched venue major like the US Open. But again, it just doesn't, like, this feels like you said, kind of like the kickoff event. Like, this is opening day in a lot of fans' minds of the golf season, but like nothing about this screams major to me.
So think about that. Like what you just said, opening day. Like opening day means a lot to people like in the baseball world. The game one of the season is inconsequential. Not that the players is inconsequential, but it's not the point. It's a celebration. It marks a milestone, but it is not the point of the golf season. And I think you're right. I think with this tournament being where it is on the schedule, I'm sure we'll talk about this in the course prep. You get guys that are at different spots in their games. You get a golf course that plays very different in May than it did in March than it did in May. Yep. When it used to be on the schedule. I mean, they fundamentally changed the profile of the golf course. It doesn't command anything near par when it comes to scoring. And we've sort of manufactured the field a little bit to not really require the gatekeeping that is most of the major events. Right. And I think Brooks put it really well in his press conference today. He said, "It's a tournament I want to win. Let's just leave it at that."
Yeah, it's one that like looks great on your resume at the end of the day, but I'm gonna be honest with you. I can't tell you how many Tiger won. I can't tell you. I think it's 8.
He has won 8 Players Championship.
It's some crazy. Or maybe he's won 8 times.
8 Tories. Yeah.
Something. I can't tell you how many times Scottie has won. I can't tell you how many times like the greats have won. I can tell you exactly. It's Scottie and Rory both have won twice. But like, you know what I mean? Like nobody talks about like, oh, he won the Players last year. It's like, no, he won the Masters last year. He won the US Open last year. Like this rarely comes up in the, like in our, in golf lexicon of like what a player accomplished in the previous season. Like if a guy wins the Players, but then is terrible the rest of the year, nobody cares. If a guy wins the Masters and then misses 15 cuts, that's all we're going to talk about next year is this guy won the Masters and then missed 15 cuts in a row. Like, it just doesn't have that level of prestige as much as it wants to. Like, I do feel like it wants to be a major, right? It's the highest purse we're going to see all year. It's, yes, it takes a lot to get into this event, but there's just nothing that prestigious about it. And maybe that's because, there always hasn't been a Players Championship on the PGA Tour schedule. It's not, like we can talk about Jack Nicklaus playing in the Masters. We can talk about Babes Harris playing in the Masters. Like we can't talk about this event like that.
It feels manufactured, which is what it is. It's the PGA Tour needing to manufacture a high profile event. It's at the home of the PGA Tour. It's typically been the best PGA Tour players. There isn't really an open route of entry.
Right.
And all that is fine. I think your question was, should this be the fifth major? No, it shouldn't. It is a great golf event to watch. I love tuning in. We're going to have a fantastic time betting. We're going to have a fantastic time watching. But I don't think we got to do anything with the record books here. Just let it be.
Yep. Bingo. Speaking of the record books, this is a perfect time to not talk about the record books at all, but talk about the In Between Media golf family. This is our way for you to connect with the analysts over here at In Between Media, as well as other viewers of the content like yourself. For free, you get access to our analysts into our memorabilia giveaway as our one and done contest. To give a quick update on the one and done contest, my brother Logan is still in first place. Our producer Trash Sandwiches is still in third place. Gopher JD jumps, or Trash is in second place. Gopher jumps into third place with 1.15 million. Timbo Slice in fourth at 1.09 million, tied basically with Royal Slade. You do see me falter back down to sixth place. It's unfortunate. It is what it is. We're just getting started. We got plenty of golf left. You got my friend Tony Shell sitting at 944K. Mike, you jumped up from 10th place to 8th place with 579K. Jed Boswell sitting there at 534K. And then Seth, our wonderful leader over here at IBT, as well as the remainder of the crew in the contest, sitting at sub 440K. But this is just, a great tool that you get access to through the In Between Media family. If you guys decide to pay for the subscription, which is $3.99 a month or $36 for the year, you get exclusive access to our weekly betting models, as well as our full betting cards and picks. If you have been tailing me thus far this year, you're up over 40 units. So it is paid for itself already if you have joined the team. And that's not to mention that when you join the family, you also get access to our football family, our racing family, as well as our entertainment family. All of us are having great starts to the year on the betting side of things. So don't miss out on your chance to get that opportunity to make some money. And you can join for free at in-betweenmedia.com/chat or with the link in the episode description. But you know what sounds great to talk about now? It's not anything to do with the record books. It's not anything to do with the family, which we absolutely do love. It's time for the news. So see you guys on the other side of this drop. Playoffs? We're talking about playoffs? That's right. We're talking about playoffs. Akshay Bhatia ends up in a playoff with Daniel Berger and is able to take it home, giving Akshay his third PGA Tour win of his career. Mike, are you ready for my fun fact about all three of Akshay Bhatia's PGA Tour wins?
I am. I don't know the answer.
All three of them have come via winning a playoff.
All right. He beat Denny McCarthy in a playoff?
I believe so. I'll fact check myself to confirm who the who he won the matchups against. But he won Denny McCarthy at the Valero Texas Open, and then he won the 2023 Barracuda Championship against Patrick Rogers.
I remember that one. Yep.
But great performance by Akshay. We talked about last week on the show. You have to have some elite traits to win a lot of these events on the Florida swing. And Akshay showed that off, and with traits that he's not necessarily known for. He led the field in strokes gained putting, gained over 10.5 strokes with the putter, which is, if you talk about Akshay Bhatia from even a year ago, that number is absurd. We're talking about a guy who had to go to a long putter because he couldn't putt. He just flat out was terrible at it. And, this has obviously been paying dividends for him. We've seen, more consistent high-level performances out of Akshay, but he was also great around the greens as well. Gained over 5.5 strokes around the green, led the field in that category. He was, 23rd in strokes gained approach over the 4 rounds, 45th off the tee. So it's not like he really was, gaining anything against the field off the tee. He just really shined with his short game. His short game was able to, keep him in contention. It's not like he had a boom round by any means. He played pretty consistent golf through the weekend. Berger obviously starting off, with the 63 in round 1, certainly he got off to a crazy start that day. Everything in the bag was working for him, continued a lot of everything working in round 2. But we did start to see him, falter a little bit. His putting and driver kind of fell off a little bit throughout the weekend. He struggled around the greens on Sunday, but really, I think he played conservative on Sunday and Akshay didn't. And I personally think that plays a big factor in why Akshay won. Would you agree, or did you see anything different?
I think the discourse on this is really interesting. So I don't know if we're going to cover to anchor or not anchor, but the reality is that players who win PGA Tour events putt well. In fact, it happens about once a year, maybe, that a player loses strokes putting and wins an event. Ironically, I believe Akshay might have lost strokes putting in that Valero Texas Open win, as in 2024, as did Joe Highsmith at the Cognizant in 2025, but it just doesn't happen that often.
Right.
So we act like we're surprised that a guy that gains 10 strokes putting, we're like shaming him for winning the event because he didn't stripe his irons all week. Like every attempt to hit the ball counts, and you take about a third to a half of your strokes putting. So like I'm kind of laughing at the discourse this week that we should somehow think less of him because he was a magician on the greens. Now it is a little clouded in the controversy around, is he anchoring, is he not anchoring? He's one of the few guys to use the broomstick and all those things, but you got to credit the dude with being well behind through 63 holes and finding a way to get it done. I was thinking about, like, all weekend as Daniel Berger was showing signs of running away with this and Ludwig was creeping up the board. I couldn't wait to text you to say, gosh, why didn't you take Ludwig in winner without Daniel Berger?
Yeah, that would have been a hilarious market to be in if that was an offered market. I was in on Ludwig last week, and
I know you were. That's why I thought it was funny.
It would have been great. I was really hoping he was going to pull it off, but I love Akshay. I love, especially anytime we see some of these young up and coming players, especially those who have been so media friendly and so content friendly on like the YouTube side of things. When we see them have success, it makes me very happy. Obviously, I didn't have any bets on Akshay. I wish I did. His number was like 63-1, I think, opening the event or something to that extent.
Did you see? I have not seen this bit by the PGA Tour, the winners walk. Have you seen these? I don't know if they've really done them all year, but they had video of him for about 3 or 4 minutes through the clubhouse after he had closed out his win. Do you know what he ordered at the bar with Sam Saunders to commemorate his win?
No idea. I didn't see.
He ordered an Arnold Palmer. I thought that was a little weak. I thought maybe he could have. Arnie tended to kick back the kettle one. I thought maybe Akshay would have gone a little stiffer, but
I was gonna say, was it Arnie that one of the guys went and had the when Arnie was still alive, had the like celebratory drink with him afterwards, where they used to get to sit down and
that's what it is. Yeah.
And it was like 3 fingers of Kettle One. Like,
yeah. And so now Arnie's grandson, former tour player Sam Saunders, is now in there doing the bit, and Akshay orders an Arnie Palmer.
I respect it. You got to at least order a John Daly. Like, let's get a little booze in there, but respect at the end of the day to Akshay. Get this man in a playoff, and I'm putting $1,000 on him every single time.
Can I ask you a question about Daniel Berger? Obviously he's battled injury. He's sort of been all over the place in his return. He's had some nice play since coming back really from injury a couple years ago, but been a bit streaky. And he goes total dog mode on 18 to somehow grind out a par when he needs it, sinks that 13 curling footer, which, like everybody said, and I did too, to the TV, how many times have we seen this putt made on 18 at Bay Hill from varying lengths? I know DBs. I know he does this with the driver. He's got a couple of different driver swings he goes to. Mm-hmm. I didn't really understand. He missed the fairway 3 times on Sunday because he had to finish his round 3 on Sunday morning. Missed the fairway 3 times trying to hit that flighty fairway finder that he hits, that like bullet cut.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really interesting in some of the breakdown I listened to that when you have super thick grabbing rough like you do at Bay Hill, when you're carrying the driver 240 yards and you hit it in the rough, it doesn't roll.
Yeah, it's first off, what's the point of having a fairway finder if it's not going to find a fairway
3 times in a row? Yeah, I just think under pressure like that, and I know this is a shot he's got, but under pressure like that, I would tee it up and hit a bomb. Because if it doesn't find the fairway, you will be better off 30, 40 yards ahead. Yep. And just to let yourself be free in that moment than trying to control. So I kind of took exception to his strategy on 18. I thought he should have just let it fly.
Yeah, if you're not going to hit, My opinion with driver is this is the club in the bag that we are supposed to hit the farthest. If I'm not trying to hit this as far as I can, out comes a 3-wood, a 5-wood, a 7-wood, a 2-iron, a driving iron, a hybrid, something else. That if I'm that scared of missing the fairway, or if I'm trying to play it that safe, I'm going to hit a different club. Do I have a fairway finder driver shot? Yes, I do. Because I'm an amateur player, I could take 2 minutes, not even 2 minutes, 30 seconds on the tee, get the X-stiff shaft out of my driver, put the regular flex in, and I just barely try and I can hit a 230-yard balloon fade. Or I could just grab my 7-wood and hit my normal 7-wood shot, and it does the same thing. Like if you're trying to play it safe, you have a club in the bag that you can play it safe with. Driver is not the club to play it safe with, in my opinion. And I think that ultimately cost them.
Yeah, I'm with you. That was my first reaction, was just that was kind of poor course management, maybe overthinking it a little bit. And ultimately, what were the two things that don't last? Dogs that chase cars and golfers that putt for pars. And he was not in position to get that done.
He was not. He certainly was not. We could transition and talk about the alternate field event, the Puerto Rico Open. I feel like there's been arguably more discourse about that I've seen online than I've seen about the Arnold Palmer. So not really going to spend any time on that. I want to talk about journeyman winning golf tournaments. That's what I have fun with. And the doc is in the office. Doc Redman secures his first first professional win, not even just PGA Tour win, first win as a professional. Doc Redman, for those of you who aren't familiar with him and his game, he played college golf at Clemson. He won multiple events in college. He won the 2017 U.S. Amateur in the stroke play qualifier to get into the event. He finished 62nd out of 64 players. Like barely
who did he beat in that USAM?
A lot of people.
Doug Gim in the final at Riv.
Yes. How was that year?
Wasn't it? Or did Doug win that year? Am I confused? Because he beat Doc Redman.
I don't remember. I just remember. I remember Doug Gim losing. I don't remember who beat him.
Okay. So maybe that was the year.
Possibly. He's competed in the Walker Cup. He, after the 2018 NCAA championship, he turned professional, made his debut at the Memorial. By turning pro, he forfeited exemptions to the U.S. Open and the Open Championship. In 2019, he shot a 62 to Monday qualifying to the Rocket Mortgage. In the tournament, he finished solo second to a guy who he Monday queued to get into the tournament, and then lost to a guy who got in as an alternate for the event after not getting through the Monday qualifier, was able to get into the field. So what an ending there. But earned himself enough points to maintain status on the PGA Tour. And we haven't really heard anything about him since. And this is not like he's a bad golfer by any means. This is a guy who has a top 20 at the US or at the Open, a guy who's finished top 26 in the Players, the tournament that we're talking about this week. He's just really struggled basically since 2022, 2023. And to be professional for this long, and especially coming from the pedigree of a US Amateur winner, a great collegiate golfer who's been on professional tours for the last, 7-8 years, to have no real success and then to finally get that win. I don't want to say it's not comparable to winning a major, but it's got to be kind of a similar feeling to like what Rory felt after finally getting that green jacket, where it's like the weight is finally off of his shoulders. He's no longer pressing for the win. He's no longer, out there thinking like, I don't know if I can play golf next year if I don't get my status on the Korn Ferry Tour and yada, yada, yada. But like he's put himself into a great spot to have a chance through the end of the Korn Ferry Tour season, if he keeps playing well, to get back on the PGA Tour. And it's not like he won this on a fluke either. He won by 5 strokes. Like he lapped the field in a lot of ways in this event. I just love seeing journeymen succeed. It's so fun to me.
Yeah, you do a great job of servicing those stories. What's interesting is he's played 5-6 events on the Korn Ferry Tour this year. Hasn't really done much. His best finish is 28th. But you go back to the fall season last year, RSM Classic T18, Bank of Utah Championship T20, Sanderson Farms T9. he actually had a really nice fall for the appearances that he got in the PGA Tour. Turns that into, kind of average play on Korn Ferry, but maybe we should have, I'm going to say we should have seen this coming. I don't really follow the Korn Ferry Tour that deeply, but you got to cheer for a guy who's actually put together about 6 months of good golf.
Yeah, especially when you look, you go before that, and we're talking about a guy who missed 5 straight Korn Ferry cuts in a row at one point last year. He, like I said, he's had success. He's played great golf. He's very streaky. It's very clear that that's, part of who he is as a golfer. But it's awesome to see anytime the journeyman can win. Obviously I always end up talking about it, but it's fun. It's we talk about the Rorys, the Tigers, Jack Nicklaus, Arnie Palmy, everybody up here who's winning a ton of tournaments. Give me the guy who, like we talked about last week, was like almost living in his car, ends up winning a Korn Ferry Tour event or a DP World Tour event. You get this guy, Doc Redman, who's been out there, who, he's friends with a lot of guys who are great professional golfers. That whole kind of, that group of players from the Carolinas who all live out in Sea Island. I think it's Keith Mitchell, JT Poston, that kind of group of guys. Like Doc Redman's right there with them. They all are friends, and I'm sure it's great to see all your friends have success, but again, it's nice to be the guy having some success at that point.
Right on.
You love to see it, but time to get to what you all came here for. Let's head on over to the Caddie notes and start to break down the Players Championship. If you have been around all year, you would know this is the second time I'm talking about TPC Sawgrass, and the first time I'm talking about it in the correct week. So to make sure I don't mess anything up, Mike, why don't you tell us and the people a little bit about TPC Sawgrass?
I thought it would have been a good bit if this would have said TPC Scottsdale.
I'm so mad I didn't think of that.
TPC Sawgrass, Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida. Pete Dye, arguably his most famous golf course. I'm going to ask you this. Is this Pete Dye's magnum opus?
I would say so. I think with a lot of Pete Dye courses, right, we know what the challenge is going to be. They're positional second shot courses for the most part. You know exactly what you're going to get. I feel like Sawgrass tests players in a different way while still being very true to a Pete Dye design.
I think there's there's probably 2 courses that stick out to me that maybe get a little bit more attention as sort of having that, I'll say, that magnum opus aura to it, maybe either Kiowa or Whistling Straits. And I think it's a little unfair comparison because both of those have such incredible natural beauty. I mean, Whistling Straits, right. I haven't been on property, but I've been there, but not on that course. It's just like you can't match the setting outside of a handful of the destinations in the U.S. nowadays. Sawgrass is quite a bit more refined. It's a little more historic. It's been around longer. But I think you're right in the sense that it is a very pure test of golf in Pete Dye standards, as far as can you control your position off the tee so that you maximize your opportunities going into the green. Whereas when you're playing Kiowa and Whistling Straits in those courses, you tend to be subject to the elements a little bit more, and sort of the villain, or the villain of Pete Dye comes into play kind of with the rub of the green. At Sawgrass, it's a little more of an intentional test, and it's going to test guys all the way through the bag. So when we think about Sawgrass, we think about probably the course on tour with the most demand through the bag.
Yep.
Meaning you want elite ball strikers driving off the tee in iron play all the way up until these greens. There's also quite a bit of premium on driving accuracy on this course, and a lot of that has changed with the moving of the golf tournament from May to March. And the big change is that when you have these Florida golf courses in March, and we just saw it at Bay Hill, is you have to overseed with ryegrass in the rough. And so this actually takes out it kind of takes out the randomness of thick Bermuda rough that grabs the ball and you either get a good lie or you get a terrible lie. Now you just get kind of bad lies, and they're growing this rough out 3.5, 4 inches, and it's gonna even put more of a premium on guys who can hit the ball up in the. I've seen a lot of bits right now. The greens are super firm, despite the area getting some rain. And so what's interesting is when you look at the winners of the Players Championship, when we moved from May to March, we started to skew more towards arguably the stars. Now, not that the guys that won when the tournament was in May were schlubs, but like Rory twice, Scottie twice, Cam Smith, and then I'll say vintage JT several years back, winning the Players Championship since it moved to this March date.
Well, and
before
you get
that,
in there too, Scottie becomes the first player to ever win back-to-back.
Right. Yeah. And not only that, like, you know, there's a lot to be said around the draw. And we've seen some years where the weather has really gotten the best of these players, but there's a bit going around online that basically you can't win unless you start in the morning. And I think Sawgrass tends to bear its teeth a little bit as you get into the afternoon. The greens really firm up. The course dries out. The winds pick up. Driving becomes really difficult off the tee. And Scottie was really one of the first players to break that trend and show that you can win from the afternoon if you have elite ball striking. I'm also taking a look again. We could talk about the stat profiles here, but like all peak guy golf courses, driving accuracy is one thing, but it's not necessarily getting the ball in the fairway. It's getting the ball onto the right side of the hole.
Yep.
And so you'll take guys that have small of fairway if their predominant miss is on a certain side of the hole. And so it's going to be really interesting to think about. It's, you know, don't look at just pure accuracy. Now looking at pure total driving, like you really got to think of the guys who can sort of paint their way around this golf course, because that's what Pete Dye asked for.
Yeah, I saw something on Twitter that missing on the left side of the left side versus the right side adds roughly a quarter stroke to the hole in and of itself. And then we saw some of the early practice round reports. You know, guys hitting it 40 yards shorter than their colleagues in the fairway, and they're able to stick the green in two, no problem. But anybody coming out of the rough, you just can't get enough on it. You can't spin it enough to really hold greens. So it truly is such a positional test in that way. And if you go on Data Golf and you look at, I don't know if you've ever looked at their, they've got like a scrolling meter. Basically, like one side is dinkers who putt and play short, have the great short game. And the other side is your bombers, your bomb and gouge approach. And like you said, you know, when it was in May, distance played a much bigger factor overall. But playing in the version of TPC Sawgrass that we get now, it's just you have to have elite accuracy with regardless of club, really, to have a lot of success here. And I think when you look at Rory, Scottie, Cam Smith, JT, it's very clear that's what you need. And sure, we can look at the winners before being Webb Simpson, Siwoo Kim, Jason Day, Ricky, Martin Kamer, Tiger. Like, yes, they have aspects of that to their game, but I mean, looking at those four names who have won since 2019 and the 6 names that won prior, there very clearly is different caliber. Like, there's levels to this.
Yeah. And so I think that's going to be interesting as we get into the betting market, because as much as you want to play bombs this week, you got to be smart with your card. We're probably not going to see 100-1 winner. We're just probably not. So if there's guys you like in that range, who we will absolutely talk about, you got to figure out whether you're in the betting market or you're in DFS, how do you work those long shots in the right ways? Is it 3 balls? Is it placements? Is it top 10s? I mean, just think about that, because the players, I mean, maybe we get lucky this year and we find a 40-50 1 winner, but it hasn't been the case.
Right. Exactly. So speaking on kind of the skill profile of the players in this event, what are you, we're looking for a lot of the same things. So looking for kind of elite players, tee to green. So I factored that in via strokes gained ball striking, strokes gained total at Pete Dye courses. And then, you know, even narrowed it down a little bit further to look for some of the, more direct comparative courses, like a Harbor Town is kind of the prime example that comes to mind there. Well, how did you kind of hone in on those players? Did you do it any different from me?
Not really. I mean, I feel like we've sort of been on this run where, especially with the Florida golf courses and there being a lot of trouble off the tee, we're looking for players that are exceeding in total driving. I am waiting pretty heavily on bogey avoidance.
Yep.
As a way to just say, can you keep the ball in play? When you have so much trouble off the tee, can you keep the ball in play? This week, I am looking for distance from edge of fairway. Part of that is just making sure that, again, that's another way to look at, do you keep the ball in play? Because when you miss on this golf course, I want to make sure that you can be in the rough. It just needs to be on the right side of the hole. If you are in the, you can get left miss, right miss percentages. And so I am weighting towards players that are either lower ranked in right miss percentage or have a clear deviation between their left miss and right miss percentage. Guys that just skew missing on the right side. And you can think of the holes on this golf course where you can't miss left. But like you said at the beginning of the show, if it's worth 2 or 3 strokes around on average missing right, then I'm going to look for guys that don't really miss left off the tee.
Yep.
And then the other stat that I worked in there that we've used a couple of times this year is scrambling from short grass. You're going to have a number of runoffs where you're going to have tight lies around the greens. And especially, as you said, it's incredibly difficult to hold these greens when you're playing from the rough. You have to imagine that guys that are sniffing around the top of the leaderboard by the end of the week are going to have some mastery of their short game. And I bet they're going to have a lot of shots from those closely mown runoffs.
100%. So going off of that too, I included kind of strokes gained around the green and scrambling. I also included proximity on shots from the rough because we're going to see quite a bit of those. So, surprisingly, who leads the field in that category?
Hideki?
Brooks Koepka. Great guess, though. But yes, Hideki is very much up there. So wedge play definitely is a factor here. This rough it's penal. It's not US Open rough, but this and Riv are about as close to a US Open style rough as you're going to run into on, most of the PGA Tour season. Also included, you have to score to win here, right? Like bogey avoidance. Yes, we need these guys to avoid bogeys, but you also have to score. And just given the buckets of approach shots, basically you're going to hit approach shots from 150 and in or long. There's really no in between there. There was a higher concentration on the shorter end there. So I did include scoring opportunities gained from kind of within 150 yards. We want these guys to be putting it close, and that's what scoring opportunities gained really measures. So I did want to include that. I saw in your stats that you listed here, we've got the grit metric in here.
I think you need it when you know the winners are going to be near the top of the odds boards, and it's probably going to come down to a close finish on 3 really, really challenging holes. We talked about this earlier in the year. How do I find my dogs? You saw that last week with Daniel Berger at Bay Hill needing to claw out a par on the last hole to keep his hopes alive. I kind of feel like you're going to get something similar this week, and so we talked about one grit metric you can look at is bounce back. How quickly do you make a birdie after you make a bogey? It's one way to look for guys who can kind of flush out a bad shot or a bad hole. And I think if you can work that into your models this week, it's a good way to figure out who can hold it together down a tough stretch.
100%. Anything else that you included in your model? I've basically gone down the board here. I have strokes gained putting on the kind of, what is it, bent POA, basically.
Well, this is going to be Bermuda overseeded POA Triv, and I was having trouble getting some POA Triv metrics, but basically what POA Triv does to Bermuda greens is it neutralizes all the grain.
Yep. So
you're going to end up with fairly true rolling 13.5 on the stem greens. So it kind of feels like Augusta, fast bent grass.
Yep. Yeah, I included it. It's the lowest weighted metric in my model. You do have to be able to putt to win a golf event. We've already talked about this in the show. This is not a course that you are typically going to win with the putter. This is a course where you could gain 4 strokes in the first 2 rounds in each of the first 2 rounds with your putter and miss the cut by 4 shots because everything else wasn't there. This is truly a course where you have to be coming in on top of your game, and you have to play legit high level golf for 2 days straight to make the cut and 2 more days to take this one home. But that's kind of the statistical profile, and we're about to hop into the picks here. But before we hop into the picks, I do want to shout out our sponsor, WannaParlay. WannaParlay creates fun and exciting competition that connects people. It embodies the joy of winning, the heartbreak of almost winning, and all the other emotions you experience during competition. Coming from the brains of 2 former Kansas State college football players, it's all about stacking legs, competing with real sports lovers like you and I, and getting real cash wins every single day. You can 1000x your money and cash out fast. If you're ready to flex those parlay legs, make sure to download the app for iOS and Android and get a 100% match bonus when you use code IBT at signup. That's right. That's code IBT to get a 100% match bonus at WannaParlay. The link is in the episode description. Mike, are you ready to talk about the plays?
Bring it on.
What is it time to do? Let's get those clubs twirling. All right, starting us off. I almost put question marks in this banner because that is unfortunately what we are looking at with Rory McIlroy this week. Currently coming off the board at 16-1 over at DraftKings. 2-time winner here. Has solid course history. Although I'll be the first to admit, course history isn't, the calling card of some of the other events. You have to play well here, but this can be a spike event for a lot of different players if your game is good. But he's coming off a back injury. He's not even getting to the venue until tomorrow and won't play a practice round.
Yeah, I'm sure when you opened up the show notes, you're like, Mike, what are you thinking here? And
I get it.
But it's first of all, this number moved from when we first started going through this. It moved from, I think, 13.5 to 16. And depending on what we see out of Rory on Wednesday, this could even touch 20. And now we're talking about Rory McIlroy, 20-1. Clear, if you're just doing your stat profile, like clear 1B in my model, yep. Scottie Scheffler. And it's one of those things. I mean, this is just like bettor's voodoo. It's like, okay, if I buy into the hype that Rory can't do anything this week because he left API with a back injury, and I don't bet him, he's gonna come out and he's gonna shoot 64 in the first round. Like you just know something like that's gonna happen. So this number is getting too juicy to just get a piece of it. Yeah. When this is clear, like I say, clearly like one of the top 2 players in the field. I think it's pretty interesting that like his value is starting to slip a little bit. So if you look at sort of like how Data Golf does their odds and in comparison to where the books are at, they got him at like 20 or 21 right now.
22.
And actually 22. Yeah. So it's fallen. He's even fallen further from earlier this evening. So, I do think this number is still a little bit too short from how the general market is viewing Rory right now. But he's got great history here. He's coming off the win. He's won this event twice. He's played fantastic this winter. He's played pretty good this fall. He just finished second back at the Genesis.
He was trending in a great direction at the Arnold Palmer before he hurt his back.
And so it's hard to tell. I mean, like I've suffered, many a back injury around the game of golf, and sometimes the only thing it really does, if you get it medicated the right way, is it just kind of keeps you in check a little bit more. And hey, maybe that's not the worst thing for Rory around TPC Sawgrass. And so it just, none of us, we don't have injury reports in professional golf. We're just going based on what the boots on the ground are telling us. And he might be fine. And I'm willing to take that risk anywhere from 16 to 20-1.
I also have to ask the question, how bad were the beds that these guys were staying in? Jake Knapp had a back injury. That ultimately came out today. That's why he had to withdraw from the Arnold Palmer. Smotherman withdrew with a back injury. Rory's got a back injury. I'm sure these guys aren't staying at the Holiday Inn Express, but These
with
guys
Rory, I mean,
these guys gotta get some better bets.
old. Man, you don't know this yet. You don't know what it's like to be late 30s. You sneeze and you're laid up for 2 weeks.
The first time I had to go to a chiropractor for my back, I was 13. I am well versed in these bad back streets out here. But just I'm with you. These odds, I'm waiting because I do think we're going to see this number get closer to 20 if the books continue to trend in the route that they have. And it's interesting at the top of the board, like Scottie falls to 4.8 to 1 at the best book you can get him at, off of his worst finish since this event last year. Now
we're talking.
Is Scottie ever going to fall? I don't know, but Rory's falling. I'm in. A guy who is not falling, who I am certainly going to be in on this week, Collin Morikawa going off at 20.5 to 1 over on DraftKings. I mean, we talked about what we're looking for here, right? Great ball strikers who hit it well off the tee, keep it in the fairway, can get around the greens if they miss them a little bit, scores well, creates opportunities for himself. With Collin, as always, it's the putter, but we've been seeing the putter trend in the right direction over these last few weeks. In fact, we talked about the putter a lot after he won the Pebble Beach Pro-Am. He was way better as a putter at the Arnold Palmer than he was even at that event. He's gained strokes over his previous event since that event. He gained more strokes at the Genesis and then gained more at the Arnold Palmer with the putter. He's continuing to play high level golf. The ball striking hasn't gone anywhere. The driver continues to be both long and straight. He plays a fade, so we know more often than not his miss is on the right side. He tends to be an overfader of the ball as opposed to a puller of the driver when he misses, unlike Scottie, who tends to pull it more than he overfades it. So, when we talk about what we're looking for, a lot of that is Collin. Is 20.5 to 1 the number I want it to be? No, I'd love this number to be 25. But this is truly where I start to get interested in the board. Really above him, we see, it depends on the book, but we see Rory above Collin. Some of the books even have, a couple other guys in front of him, but Collin is the first name that stands out where I'm really like, all right, this guy can win. Plus he's got the win monkey off of his shoulder. Like, he doesn't have the weight of getting a win on US soil again. He's got his win. It'd been years since we'd seen it. He's got the win. He's played great since the win. I'm in on Collin this week.
Yeah, I think this. So first of all, the number here on DraftKings is super juicy. You're getting your 20, you said 20.5 to 1 here. You're 16 to 1 pretty much everywhere else. So definitely want to take a look at that. I think this is going to be the community win. Mm-hmm. If we get one this week, this is going to be the community win. Everybody's saying Collin's game is tuned up. He's coming off a win, a 7th, and a 5th, gaining strokes in all phases of the game, lighting up his irons, lighting up his driver. Everything is pointing to Collin this week. And if you want to go and get your 20 to 1 here, go ahead, because I think the community is going to be celebrating this one by the end of the week.
And if they're not celebrating that community win, this is probably the other guy who's in the running for community win, at least the community that I have followed. That's going to be Siwoo Kim coming off 24 to 1. The only guy who over essentially the 2026 PGA Tour season has been a better ball striker than Collin Morikawa. He leads the field in strokes gained ball striking. His driver has been a weapon. He's 22nd in total driving, top 10 in both bogey avoidance and birdies or better. Plays Pete Dye course as well, creates a ton of scoring opportunities for himself, scores well on both par 4s and par 5s. What's the question mark with Siwoo? The exact same question mark we have with Collin, the putter. Will he putt enough to succeed? I tend to view this course a little more as a just don't lose strokes with the putter and you'll probably be fine course than a you need to gain a ton. And even when Siwoo, a previous winner of this event in 2017, his true strokes gained per round was 0.38 with the putter. So it's not like you have to putt lights out to win this event.
He's a pretty flat putter overall. He's never gonna. He rarely has. I mean, first of all, he rarely has positive weeks, but he rarely has weeks where he's losing 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 strokes putting. He's gonna be right around 0. Now he hasn't really gained all year, but he started his year 11th, 6th, 2nd, 3rd. Right? Do you remember when he was absolutely just striping it? and he was sniffing all around the leaderboard. He's backed off a little bit, but he actually had a sneaky good week last week, top 13. We just spent a lot of time talking in the course update that you don't need a ton of distance this week.
Yep.
You need to keep the ball in play. And so I think you're right. If you can flip Siwoo onto the positive side of putting, even if we're talking about 1 stroke total over 4 rounds, I think that might be enough to at least get him into the top 5.
Certainly. And 24, it's just a juicy number. Like I said, if you're asking me if Collin fell to this range and I have to pick between Collin and Siwoo, I'm taking Collin. I think the ceiling is a little bit higher right now for Collin, just given his current form. But at a slight discount, consider me in. This is a guy for you now that we're about to talk about who it feels like every time I'm not in on him, he does great things. So I'm going to stay out on him this week. I know that is certainly against the community. The community is also all over Hideki Matsuyama, 37-1. I get it.
Yeah, it's another one where his profile has sort of set him up to be talked a lot about this year. But I mean, yes, he did win the Hero World Challenge, but he hasn't really impressed all that much. He got the second at the Phoenix Open, a place that he can finish top 5 in his sleep. But it just feels like he's been playing above his finish position, and that includes 5 top 13 finishes. It's more of a question of like, why hasn't he won an event this year? So the things I like about Hideki, they're all the intangibles that you need around the greens. He's not only is he 10th in the field in course history and strokes gained on Sawgrass, I got him 10th on Pete Dye courses, but he is a world-class scrambler. And that's something that is, when the rough is going to be thick in the fairways, Hideki has a tendency to get a little wild off the tee. If he's playing out of the rough and we're not holding the greens, he is one of the few guys in this field that I trust to be able to get it up and down from almost anywhere. It's probably the biggest thing that I'm concerned about is that the driver can get a little wacky, especially when the pressure ramps up. Now, his predominant miss is right, which we said is the bailout on TPC. But I think when I think about guys that can get the ball in the hole and are going to play well out of those closely mown areas, it's a lot like TPC Scottsdale. I like Hideki, and I think 37-1 is a good number for a guy that's got a lot of win equity in this field.
It definitely is, and like you mentioned, with Hideki, it's always going to be an up and down performance with some part of the game. It's just the nature of how the man plays golf. After a few great tournaments with the putter, which is not his game whatsoever. Kind of fell back down to earth at the Arnold Palmer with that. The wedges remain good. The driver has been trending in the right direction over the last couple starts. So it's really just a matter of, can he put it all together to get that win? I think he can. I'm probably not going to put money on it, especially after he missed the cut here last year. And that one burned me after a couple great plays here, but certainly could do worse with the money. If we're going to talk about guys who burned me, we might as well talk about a guy who burned me just last week in Matt Fitzpatrick, going off at 41-1. And I'm still in. I know I shouldn't be. I shouldn't let myself get hurt again, but I'm going to let this cross-handed chipper hurt me again. And I'm fine with it. When you look at what his game has become, we've talked about it. The driver has become a real solid part of his game. The irons are still a very solid club for him. It's really just, is he going to avoid the bogeys? That's really what's held him back this year. He has not been great at recovering when he's put himself in bad situations. He also hasn't created a ton of scoring opportunities for himself, but has still scored at a very high rate. He's top 20 in the field in birdies or better overall. He putts well enough on this surface. There's enough to like about the game that I'm going to get hurt again by him, but I'm fine taking the shot again.
Well, when Fitz goes over 40-1, as with a number of guys that we cover week to week, they'd almost just start to hit that auto bet territory. Yep. His ceiling is to win this golf tournament. He's lost strokes on approach 4 times in his last 25 starts. So if you're looking at last week, it's likely an anomaly. And he does a lot of the other things right. He's a highly accurate ball striker. The other thing that I love too is Fitzpatrick stops at almost nothing in improving his game. So you know that he is going to be locked in. He's very serious about making progress. I love all the length that he's added to his off the tee game. And he's coming off. He finished 5th place at TPC in 2024. Obviously missed the cut a couple of times around that. But okay, so he's a volatile player on this golf course, as are a lot of guys. 40-1 starts to get like really juicy for a guy that's got, a major championship win and can certainly hang with the big guys.
A guy who does not have a major championship win, and he didn't hurt me last week as much as he hurt himself. Jake Knapp here, 49-1. We can basically just copy paste everything I said about him last week to this week, and that's why I'm still on him. Top 20 ball striker so far this year, top 30 driver, one of the best bogey avoiders on tour. Great scoring numbers on par 5s and par 4s. Scrambling really, really well this year. I'm in again. It's Jake Knapp. He's in auto bet territory for me until this number creeps up past, I would probably say 35-1. I'm kind of auto in on Jake Knapp right now. He hasn't gotten the win yet this year, but the guy's gone T11, T5, 8, T8, 6. He's been so close to putting together a great week. And I know he's coming off of a little bit of a back injury. He was able to get in a 9-hole practice round today. So that leads me to believe he's feeling better. He's feeling good enough, obviously, to compete here. And this is a guy who was T12 here last year, was lights out with the putter, and came into this event not playing the best with the driver. And we're talking, the form he's entering in with the driver is basically 13 straight tournaments of gaining strokes with that club. He's just in a different position than he was last year entering this tournament in terms of his overall game. And I think if he's healthy, he is going to be a name that we were talking about all weekend.
So this is, put him on the community win list. I have him on my back to the well list. Guys that you just are playing too good to stop betting. Like you said, 4 straight top 10s. I love the take about looking back at the form coming into these finishes. It's so easy to go look at his 2 starts at the Players' Championship. Say, gosh, you finished T12 and he finished T45th the last 2 years. And oh my God, he putted lights out and he lost strokes with his driver. But look at what the kind of player he was going into both of those starts. That was his game. Like, yep. we applauded him, especially when we got that win in Mexico, for having this silky smooth golf swing, but kind of hitting it all over the place and then getting the ball in the hole. He is a different player now. Of course he is, because he's got 4 straight top 10s on the PGA Tour, 5 straight top 11s. But like you said, gaining strokes off the tee in every single round. And I think that's what you want to see. So much confidence with that club. And like we talked about, if you can put yourself in the right position on PTI golf courses, you're going to be in great shape. So love Jake Knapp. I didn't feel a need to pump him up this week. He's sitting in my pool, ready to be locked and loaded.
Absolutely. I saw him down there, so I knew I had to include him. Plus also elite first name haver. Have to bring that up whenever I can. Last kind of guy in this tier, I think, honestly, I would consider him more of a long shot. We have an arbitrary cutoff that I created of 75-1. Adam Scott is sitting at 70-1. This is just purely a situation of I like the number a lot. And that's what is getting me here. And if there's a guy in this 70 plus range who can win this tournament, I think we're talking about one with Adam Scott. Top 10 in the field in ball striking, 15 in total driving, good bogey avoidance and scoring numbers, especially on par 5s. Overall, around the green hasn't been great, but his scrambling is really good. So recovering from some of those bad situations and saving par, creating a good amount of scoring opportunities for him, putting well on this surface historically. There's a lot to like about the profile. Yes, there's concerns. There's going to be concerns about the profile with anybody we talk about in this range, but 70-1 Adam Scott feels nice.
Did you see the bit in his press conference today about when he won in 2004?
I didn't.
He said him and his girlfriend at the time went across the street to the shopping area to get dinner, and he had just opened with I believe a 65, 7 under, and had the first round lead, and then someone in the restaurant was like, "Hey, do you know who's leading the Players' Championship?" And the buddy said, Oh, some expletive no name that I have no idea who this guy is. And Adam Scott's listening to this. He's like, it was me.
Yeah,
I shot 65.
That's hilarious. I love
Yeah.
that. All right, now into the true tier of what's going on. Who are these guys? Who are these expletive no names that we're going to talk about? We're going to start off with one of your guys, Davis Thompson, this week, 105-1 at DraftKings. Sell me on Thompson.
No surprise if one of these guys that we're going to cover in this section is leading after round one. I mean, I think you have a number of players that are coming in with a ton of momentum. Davis Thompson is a previous winner on the PGA Tour, won the John Deere a couple of years ago. He is sort of like that prototypical modern golfer build. He's 6'4", hits the ball a ton, kind of carries himself with a lot of bravado. You're kind of waiting. I actually thought when he emerged a couple of years ago that we were going to see him kind of establish and hold. Now he hasn't really done that. He's kind of been replaced by guys like Chris Gotterup that are sort of playing that role. So I think you're honestly getting a bit of a steal for Davis Thompson here at now 105-1. He just finished fourth at Puerto Rico. His only miscut this year was the Amex, which is, a 54-hole cut in a pro-am with 6-hour rounds. So we're going to forgive that. But he's typically a tee to green machine. He's driving the ball excellently this year. I have him in 8th in total driving in my model, 10th in tee to green on Pete Dye courses. And he's actually doing some of the finesse parts of the game really well as well. Excellent in scrambling stats. His putting splits 5 to 15 feet on fast greens look really good as well. The only thing is that he's got a predominant left miss. And when I'm taking flyers at 100-1, I'm probably going to look past some of that. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say, Davis Thompson's playing with quite a bit of confidence, having a good start to his year. And I think he can definitely compete. And don't forget, he finished 10th here last year. So he's got some history on this golf course, and I think I love taking guys that are playing really well right now to get out to a hot start.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing with Thompson this year, it's not even been like, even though he hasn't had the greatest finishes at a lot of these events, it's not like he's blowing up and just having crazy bad rounds. He's 10th in the field in bogey avoidance. He's just not scoring a ton. So if some of these shots get a little bit closer and some of these putts start to fall a little bit more, certainly feels like a guy who at 105 could be a great steal. Now, this next guy that we're going to talk about just won the Puerto Rico Open. I didn't expect to see his name coming up at 7th overall in my model, being Ricky Castillo. Best line you can get on him right now, 125-1 at Bet365. I'm just going to throw out there, game's trending in the right direction. Ball striking is much improved over where it was a few months ago, from losing strokes with the irons pretty consistently to gaining over a stroke around over his last few starts. Great bogey avoidance numbers, great scoring numbers, especially on par fives. Has played other Pete Dye courses and other comparable courses very well throughout his career. Things are looking pretty solid for Castillo, but I want to hear some of these stats you have in here. Some of these bullet points made me chuckle, so I'm ready to hear them.
Well, don't forget, he also finished 5th at the Cognizant, and he has 3 other made cuts this year. So, I know he's playing an all-field event that he ends up winning, but he's been playing really good golf. So, yeah, you highlighted a number of them. I had him 3rd in birdie or better, 7th in tee to green on the comparable courses, 9th lowest in left miss tendency. Again, we don't care for these long shots, but okay, fine. He doesn't miss the ball left. You said 18th in bogey avoidance, 30th in carry distance. You're going to need some length this week when the fairway softened up. And then I had it 1st in overall vibes. Ricky Castillo rocks these cool sunglasses. He weighs about 150 pounds, soaking wet. He's got a fun look out there, and he's getting it done. So let's just play guys that are playing great and feel good.
You have taken the words right out of my mouth. I'm very in on Castillo, probably a little bit more DFS wise than I am, overall betting market wise. I'll probably still take a flyer on him again. We're not really expecting many of these guys to win, but these are guys who in this range have the chance to do it. I have a feeling I may have to convince you a little bit on my last guy.
Never. Not this guy. Don't ever have to convince me.
200 to 1, baby. Count me in. As surprising as it was to see Ricky Castillo in 7th in my model, I was equally surprised to see Haotong Li at 8th in my model this week. But then you look at the stats. 14th in ball striking, 11th in total driving, 26th in bogey avoidance, 15th in scrambling, 16th tee to green, comparable courses and Pete Dye courses. Pretty good numbers kind of across the board. He's running into a little bit of the Davis Thompson syndrome of he's avoided bogeys pretty well. He just hasn't scored a ton. Is that because he's hitting putter out of bunkers sometimes? Maybe. I don't know. Don't ask me. I wouldn't do it. If I'm going to do that, I'm at least taking like a hybrid so I can get a little something on it. But, overall profile, like really doesn't look terrible here. Like not the best around the greens, but again, great scrambling numbers, 15th in scrambling. There's a lot to like about the game, and at 200 to 1.
And I think that's a 200 to 1 at the Players Championship. You're looking for pure upside. And Haotong Li, he's sniffed around some big tournaments. He's got 4 top 20s at majors in the last 9 years. And he's finished 4th at the Open Championship last year. And he finished 3rd at the Open Championship a few years ago. And you can remember he did, I think he peaked around the PGA Championship sometime in the COVID era. We saw him creeping in around the top of the leaderboard. So he's got history in big events. And what more do you want? A guy 200 to 1. He's popped in a few models this year. So the game is in there. And if volatility is the thing holding you back, then you could do worse at 200 to 1 at the Players Championship.
Yeah. And we've seen him, the last few starts haven't been great, but we're talking about a guy who was TM at the Farmers Insurance this year. Like this, we've seen this guy spike, and when he spikes, the irons are absolutely on point. The driver can be a weapon. He's more of that Siwoo Kim, like just kind of hovers around. He's definitely more volatile with the putter than Siwoo, but he hovers around average over the last few starts. As long as the wedges don't betray him, and he's in a scrambling situation more than having to save par out of a bunker with a putter situation, he'll be all right, and we'll take the chances on him. But Haotong Li wraps it up for us. Mike, why don't you remind the people where they can find you?
Yeah, we're lighting up the Reading the Green model again, our expert consensus modeling. So follow at RTG Podcast on X, and you can kind of get a sense of how well your favorite influencers are doing in the golf DFS space. Otherwise, I'm hanging out here with the IBT guys most weeks.
You love to see it. Make sure you go check out the other piece of data that Mike is putting out there. It's a great resource, especially for any of you who listen to content like this through multiple sources, just to kind of keep tabs on how everybody is performing this year. You can find me on Twitter at Parry_FF. You can find my content here as well as over at Fantasy Alarm. But that has been another week, and we will see you all at our next tease.